Righty ho, let's talk shoes. More specifically, we've got the Altra Timp 5s. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, I think these are going to be my favourite shoe of 2024. So let's talk about why. So a couple stats just to kick off this video. So the Timp 5s come in at a weight of 277 grams. This is a bit lighter than their predecessor, the Altra Timp 4s. They come in the standard fit, which is sort of in the middle of Altra's three different options of original being their widest fit, then standard, and then slim fit, which you'll see on some of the everyday shoes, but also their race day shoes. Stack height comes in at a nice 29mm, right in between that sort of minimalist and really full stack height. So I'm making this review coming off a 65km ultra marathon that I ran recently with my brother down in Wellington, New Zealand. It was an epic day out and it really gave me a really good test run to really see how these shoes performed. And I've probably done a little bit over 100 kilometers in total, a little bit of running prior to the race in them just to break them in, and I've also gone for a couple runs since the race. So I made a big claim at the start of this video saying these are probably going to be my favourite shoes of 2024. So let's dive into why I feel this way. So what they've done with the Timp 5s is they've upgraded the outsole. They've gone with the Vibram Mega Grip. As you can see here, we've got some really nice deep lugs in this outsole, and the way this shoe feels when you're running over different terrain is it just chews up the ground. It just claws into the ground, not in a way that drags you down, but if you're running over some slippery terrain or more technical terrain, you have a lot of confidence. I mean, Vibram are pretty much unparalleled when it comes to outsoles in the trail running realm. They are certainly up there as, you know, one of the top players. Many other brands source Vibram for their grip, and so the Vibram Mega Grip on these shoes, it just gives you a lot of confidence underfoot. And speaking of confidence, this is what I really noticed that they did really well with the shoe is the stack height and the midsole compound and also the width of the shoe. These three components just make for a really fun ride. So 29mm it's enough stack height to give you a lot of extra support and cushioning, but it's not too high where it makes you feel unstable. I feel as though they picked a really good height for this shoe. It feels very nimble, but it also feels very cushioned as well. So the Ultra Ego Max midsole that they used, it's really nice and it's got a bit of squish, a bit of give, a bit of bounce, but it still feels nimble. You've still got a good underground feel to it. And the shoe isn't too clunky either. So in other shoes I've found, like the Olympus 5 for example, they feel a little bit wide and sort of a little bit cumbersome sometimes over technical terrain. Whereas with the Timps, they're a little bit more trimmed down, so you feel really nimble and agile in them while also getting that bounce from the midsole compound. So they've really struck an amazing balance with this shoe, in my opinion. And even when I was out on the race day running with my brother, I was saying to him, it almost felt like I was in a pair of Vibram 5 fingers, but with that extra bounce to them. Because even when we were bombing the downhills, and there was some technical downhills, it had actually been raining the night before, so some of the terrain was a bit muddy, a little bit slippery. We were running over gravel, different rocks, lots of undulations, some steep downhills, you name it, we were amongst it. And he was also running in a pair of the Timp 5s, and we were both just constantly amazed throughout the day at how confident we felt just sending it on these downhills. And then you've also got the responsiveness on the midsole, so even on the uphills as well, it gave you that extra little bit of bounce as well, which I really love. Now if you can see here, hopefully my camera focuses in there, those little, that bit of texture there on the outside of the front of the shoe. So yeah, it's just a little bit of extra protection there if you kick a rock or anything like that. And there was a few moments where I banged into a few rocks along the trail. So yeah, it just adds that extra little bit of protection, and I'm hoping it adds a little bit of extra durability as well. So yeah, we'll see in the long run how these shoes hold up. So far in terms of durability, I haven't seen any wear and tear on the upper or anything like that, so all good so far. So those are all the pros of the shoe. Really comfortable, really fast, really nimble, amazing grip on the outsole, good fit, pretty much everything you could ask for in a trail shoe. Now there are a couple little downsides, I suppose you could call them, to the shoe, which we'll go over now. First one is the lockdown feeling in the heel. I mean, most Altra shoes unfortunately do have a bit of slip in the heel area, and I did notice that early on, a bit of slipping in the heel, but it doesn't really seem to affect performance. Once you get into your run, you sort of forget about it, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really affect the performance. I didn't have any blisters on my heels after this run. Like I said, it was a 65-kilometer run. There was about 2,800 meters of elevation gain, so we're out there for many hours, and I had no blisters or anything after the run. So it's not so much that it's a performance issue, it just is noticeable in the early stages of a run. You can feel the heel slipping a little bit, but there's never any risk of the foot coming out of the shoe or sliding around in the shoe. It's just that little bit of sliding in the heel. So just something to note. Also, I found the forefoot is a little bit shallow, and I did get a little bit of rubbing on my big toe. So if you can see in this section here, when running uphill or any time when the forefoot is flexing, this area in here creases quite a bit, and this was rubbing on the top of my big toe. And both my brother and myself both experienced the same thing in one of our feet, where the foot actually started going a little bit numb in the beginning of the race. Now, this eventually worked itself out after the first 4 or 5Ks, something like that. And our feet came back to life. We didn't notice any anymore, but my assumption is that the upper of the shoe was pressing down on a nerve or something like that, causing a little bit of numbness in the foot. So I guess if you have big feet, maybe that would be something to consider with the shoe. I wouldn't call it a make or break sort of issue. It's sort of just something that's there, and I'm assuming once the shoe breaks in a little bit more, it won't be an issue. And like I said, I have gone for runs since the race, and I haven't had that issue pop up again. Yeah, it's just sort of a minor thing to note. You may get some rubbing on the top of your foot in that forefoot area, potentially. And so a couple more features on this shoe just to round out this video. The tongue, it's not super plush, but it's got a little bit of padding. It's very comfortable in my opinion. Some of the other Altra shoes in the past have sort of rubbed on the base of on the front of my ankle. No issues with it whatsoever. It's not super minimal, but not super plush. Somewhere in between. It's got a little bit of padding to it. And yeah, does its job really. Not much else to say there. The lacing I'm very happy with. The lacing is slightly textured, and once you pull it tight, lock it in, it's not going to slip. Yeah, some of the shoes in the past with Altra, the lacing has been very inconsistent. Some of them almost feel like straw, some of them feel like a whole different material. Some are too long, some are too short. These are pretty much bang on in my opinion, pretty much perfect, can't really fault them. Just the right amount of length in the lace, and like I said, it locks in really nicely. The texture's really good, it's quite grippy, so it holds in place really well. And yeah, so that's about the bulk of the review really. On another side note, I have ran on the road and pavement in these shoes, just on the odd occasion. I also found on the limestone it performed really well. We have quite a lot of limestone where I live, and I found if I'm going for a flat run that involves road, pavement and limestone, I would generally go for a road shoe. But whenever I hit the limestone, the foot kind of slides underneath me and it feels a little bit like it's slowing me down a bit. And it's been raining quite a bit lately, so I've taken the Timp 5s out for some of my flat hybrid runs where I might be on the road, I might be on a trail, I might be on the limestone, and they performed super well on the limestone. I think it just comes down to that outsole, that Vibram Mega Grip. It grips really well, and I can just propel forward and get into a nice stride without it feeling like the loose limestone is slipping underneath me. So it's great for a hybrid run, but where it really excels is the trails. It's by far my favourite trail running shoe that I've ever run in. Like I said, it feels nimble, but it also feels cushioned enough. The grip is amazing, it fits well, it pretty much ticks all the boxes I could ask for in a trail shoe. When it comes down to it, really, there's not much I could fault in this shoe, apart from, like I said, it being a little bit shallow in the forefoot and that rubbing and that heel slipping. But that's pretty much the only really minor critiques that I could put on the shoe. So super stoked with it so far. Like I said, we'll see how it holds up after a few more 100 kilometers, and I might do another review down the line, maybe after the 500 kilometer mark, for example, see how it's holding up. So if you'd like to see that video, let me know. And we've got another run coming up in about 5 or 6 weeks, I think it is now, another trail run. It's more the marathon distance, but it's got a lot of climbs in it, so really looking forward to that one. And yeah, we'll try to keep these videos rolling when we can. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.